To this story now. Yesterday, Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu committed to increasing bulk water allocation to address shortages in Gauteng. This was after an urgent meeting with municipal officials following Rand water restrictions. Mchunu is also setting up a water room committee comprising Rand water, all Gauteng municipalities as well as the business sector. Let's speak now to Professor Anthony Turton, a water management expert from the University of the Free State. Professor, good morning and thank you very much for your time. You know, when we saw the story yesterday, at the very least, that we're now going to see this level of intervention, it still begged the question that would this now assist us in the long run? Because particularly you're somebody that talks of, in this instance, infrastructure that has not been maintained well. So what do you make of just this immediate intervention?
Yes, good morning to you and the listeners. We obviously welcome the intervention of the minister. You know, this is a serious crisis and we need a good, strong leadership. However, facts are our friends, and the simple truth is that even if you allow Rand Water to pump more water at this moment in time, they are unable to process that water because there's a plant at Suikerbos, the Suikerbos treatment plant. 10 years ago, a decision was made within Rand Water, that's a decade ago, that the Suikerbos plant needs upgrading. There's been a 10-year delay. In fact, all the design, all the planning was done for the Suikerbos upgrade 10 years ago. But now, as a result of Treasury regulations for the procurement of services from contractors, those contractors have not been appointed for a whole host of reasons. So the simple truth is that the Suikerbos plant is a decade behind. And even if they now put more water through it, it's going to be under severe pressure because of these Treasury constraints.
So meaning the water pipeline upgrades will really have very little impact in the longer run?
Yes, I think it's a comfort factor. It makes one feel that, you know, that someone's doing something. But at best, it can be a short-term thing because obviously there's an immediate impending crisis. And obviously the right thing to do is to try and get water into the reservoirs as quickly as possible. But, you know, one must look internally at these institutional things. These are slow-burning fuses, if you like. You know, they take a long period of time to get the flywheel to spin. So we're a decade behind at least on the Suikerbos plant. And, you know, that's not going to change just because a minister's now made an additional water allocation.
So meaning at the heart of it is improper planning, because listening to some experts, there's an intention or a suggestion that perhaps the heat wave is to blame, but it seems that others are of the view that this just boils down to improper planning over the years and we're honestly in trouble.
Any disaster is normally when you get a culmination of events. So one thing reinforces another. So yes, there is a current heat wave, and we know that the heat wave causes people to water their gardens more because they look at their plants dying and they've paid money for their plants, they want to keep them alive. And that causes an immediate short-term spike in demand. But the system is supposed to be designed to, you know, to meet those peaks. So that, I would say, is an exacerbating factor. The other exacerbating factor is the load shedding, because water has to be pumped. In fact, one of the biggest single components of the national energy budget is the pumping of water. We spend a huge amount of our national energy budget just on moving water around the country. So that is also an exacerbating factor. So these things come together on top of the institutional failures that we're talking about. And then you start to, each one magnifies or amplifies the other. And then you get the kind of short-term crisis that we're in now. So there's a short-term component to this crisis. The immediate crisis is to get water into the reservoirs. But the medium to long-term crisis is overcoming these institutional bottlenecks, lubricating the procurement process, making sure that honest contractors and technically competent contractors are appointed, make sure that the contract values are not inflated, you know, for enrichment purposes. This is really where the long-term bottleneck lies. And then to ultimately do the big planning, the big strategic planning, the planning that's for 20 years into the future.